Part 12. My Love Simulation with Them. Author, Chiudeo Udaziiwe. Chapter 112. Aloof Base Freak, you're going to call me that from now on, no Ms. Yamada allowed. The most beautiful boy in Tokyo. Miss Yamada, Miss Yamada. Are you arguing on the other end of the phone just because of a title? Nangxiang rubbed his temples. The aloof bassist, what's the matter? The most beautiful boy in Tokyo, let's talk about it when we meet. The aloof bassist, okay, then, can you treat me to dinner? Tokyo's most beautiful boy, aren't you rich yourself? Aloof bass weirdo, it only makes sense to treat me to food at this time, and I have no money recently, so I am eating this. The attached picture shows risotto made from wild vegetables. The most beautiful boy in Tokyo, yes, but you must first promise me that I am willing to help. The aloof bassist, yes, I agreed. The most beautiful boy in Tokyo, you haven't heard what I'm saying to help you. The aloof bassist, if the time comes, I'm willing to help. Tokyo's most beautiful boy, okay, let's get in touch then. Aloof bass weird, okay. The line chat ends here. At the same time, far away in a sophomore class at Shimokitazawa High School, a curious female classmate asked. Yamada-kun. Have you encountered anything good? Why do you say that? I see you seem to be smiling. The curious female classmate tilted her head. Yeah. After replying lazily and gracefully, the girl with short blue hair replied coldly. Turn your attention back to the phone screen. Holding her chin, she looked particularly lazy in the afternoon, but the corners of her mouth inadvertently curved into a cute arc. Chapter 110. Get closer, a little closer, 4,100 words. He left Oka High School and headed all the way to the restaurant Yamada Ryo had agreed upon. This process actually didn't take Nango that long. After all, commuting to school is more convenient, so it only takes 7 or 8 minutes to walk from Oka High School to the nearby station. After a brief transfer to 1 or 2 stops, I got off at Nangxiangshi and went directly to the restaurant where Yamada Ryo sent the address online. It looks like it should be a new store with exquisite decoration, but it is not that kind of luxury restaurant. It seemed that although Miss Yamada wanted him to treat her, she had no intention of trying to pull his hair out. Simply push the door open. Before he could look around, Nangxiang heard Yamada Ryo's cold greeting. She, this way. Nangxiang looked sideways. Only then did he find Ryo Yamada sitting in the corner. Are you the only one, Ms. Yamada? Ichiki-san didn't come here. Putting his student shoulder bag next to Yamada Ryo, Nango sat face to face with Yamada Ryo. I didn't tell Hungzia. Also, call me Liang. Yamada Ryo chewed the food with small movements and spoke expressionlessly. Does that mean Ms. Yamada ran out suddenly? Didn't she inform Ichiki-san? Watching Yamada Ryo scoop up the curry rice on the plate, Nangxiang couldn't help but ask. Well. Although I have already been mentally prepared for Yamada Ryo's free and unrestrained character. But when he actually heard it, Nangxiang still put his hands together and apologized for ending the band that was still practicing hard today but was missing a bassist. Also, call me Liang. After swallowing the curry rice in his mouth, Yamada Ryo spoke calmly. Miss Yamada, do you need to be so entangled in a title? Yes, unable to hear Nangxiang calling her name, Yamada Ryo stood up expressionlessly. It seems I should leave now, let's forget about the discussion dash. Yeah. Nangxiang was not at all worried about Yamada Ryo getting up and leaving, and he didn't even mean to dissuade Yamada Ryo. He just took a sip of water slowly, then raised his head and said, hello, boss, the guests at this table will pay, and this blue-haired lady will pay. Yamada Ryo, who originally stood up, sat back down with an expressionless expression. If you think about it carefully, it's not a discussion that you can't listen to, so the matter of settling the bill. What should I call you? Nang Xiangxi put down the water glass and asked, holding his face with his palms. Ms. Yamada, Yamada, Ryo, whatever. The penniless and expressionless Yamada Ryo covered his heart. She has never hated her lavish spending so much. But wait. Think about it carefully. Nang Xiangxi couldn't really bear to see her being left to wash the dishes because she couldn't pay, right? Thinking of this, the expressionless Yamada Ryo seemed to feel inexplicably more confident. But I really can't bear to leave Miss Yamada here washing dishes. Nang Xiangxi seemed to understand her thoughts, smiled meaningfully, and answered. Goodoo. Yamada Ryo drank all the water at the table, simply ignored Nang Xiangxi's words, and chose to get to the point. What can I do for you? Nang Xiangxi. I have to say that there are times when Nangoshi really admires Yamada Ryo. This woman actually ignored what he just said. But forget it. Nang Xiangxi shook his head, but he did not continue to tease Yamada Ryo. Instead, he thought about it and spoke sincerely. Ryo, do you know about child care institutions like orphanages? Nang Xiang took the initiative to change your title, which made Yamada Ryo very satisfied. She nodded while looking at Nang Xiang sideways. The number of orphanages in Tokyo is not too many, but it is definitely not too few. After all, it is an urban city. The entire Japanese economy supports the entire Tokyo economic circle. Moreover, Yamada's family also owns a private hospital, and he has close contacts with social welfare organizations such as the Red Cross. He is even more familiar with nursing homes and orphanages. Now that you know, the next topic is easy to talk about. Nang Xiang said a little more. I have a friend who has prepared all the procedures for his orphanage to request assistance from the Red Cross, but the Red Cross has been reluctant to lend money. For this reason, they are also very anxious. He paused and continued. So I wanted to ask Ryo's father for help. I see. After hearing this, Yamada Ryoya, who was much more mature than ordinary girls, roughly understood what was going on. The Red Cross's reluctance to allocate aid is actually quite common. Especially a private orphanage like the one run by my friend in Nangxiang. Even if the Red Cross invests money, it will not gain social prestige or other benefits, so it is naturally unwilling to help it. This kind of thing is not uncommon. But while finishing the remaining curry rice, Yamada Ryo answered with a slightly embarrassed face, even if I tell my father what I think. She didn't finish her words, but vaguely expressed the idea that this matter might not work. But please, Ryo, only you can help with this. Nang Xiang's raised hands held Yamada Ryo's palms, his eyes raised with a slightly pleading tone. Yamada Ryo opened her pink lips. Nang Xiangxi was already very good looking, with a healthy and fair face, and a clean and delicate facial features, coupled with his scorching eyes that took the initiative to look up at him. Well, it's really, there's nothing I can do when I take it. Yamada Ryo, who had always been expressionless, blushed for the first time. Although she only thinks this boy from Nang Xiangxi is quite interesting, she still has no romantic thoughts about him. But I don't know why, just looking at the other person's eyes, I can't say any words of rejection when I reach my lips. How should I put it? Yamada Ryo felt that this was probably a natural skill for women in Nango. If only he was really willing to make up his mind to ask. It feels like there are really not many girls who can refuse his request. Yamada Ryo was still elegant and lazy, but for the first time, his heart felt like it was beating so fast, and he tilted his head to one side uncomfortably. I'll try to beg my father to try it. Ms. Yamada's voice was still so steady. Good. My love simulation with them. Author, Chiudeo Udazi Iway. Chapter 113. Finally, I heard the intention of letting go from Miss Yamada. Nangxiang released Miss Yamada's hand and breathed a sigh of relief. Through simulation, Nangxiang Shi had actually known for a long time that as long as he could convince Yamada Ryo and let Yamada Ryo speak, then Yamada's father would 100% agree to his request. In other words, convincing Yamada's father has never been the most important thing. As long as he can convince Ms. Yamada, that is enough. Although he was somewhat suspected of taking advantage of Miss Yamada, at least he did what he had to do. Nangxiang was relieved. The next step is to wait for the Red Cross to provide assistance to help Li Kai solve the financial problems of the orphanage. Just when Nangxiang was thinking about how to speak next, Ryo Yamada in front of her had already put down the silver spoon, and there was still more than half of the curry rice on the plate in front of her. "Don't want to eat?" Liang. Anyway, they had already changed their names, so Nangxiang Shi simply didn't bother to change them anymore, so he just spoke. "I won't eat anymore." Yamada Ryo shook his head. "It's not delicious." After saying this, she supported her chin with the back of her hand and looked at Nangxiang Shi. "Whose fault do you think it is that I can't eat?" Feeling Miss Yamada's pointed gaze, Nangxiang glanced sideways at the curry rice on her table. 1.7 points for a serving of curry rice with a little bit of saliva from a beautiful girl and average seasoning. From the perspective of 1.7 points, this curry rice can be regarded as a relatively high-level product for home cooking. If it were Ryo Yamada in the past, he would definitely be able to eat the curry rice in front of him. But lately, I've been eating snacks made by Nangxiang in the Stars Performance Hall every afternoon. Her mouth was also unknowingly manipulated. Nowadays, nothing tastes good to her when she eats out. I used to think that the miso soup in this store that was very good was like bean dregs soup, and the smell of bean dregs had not been completely dealt with. So, when the time comes, cook for me. Your topic jumps a bit too much, Ryo. Listening to Yamada Ryo's natural voice. This time Nangxiang rarely refused the other party. After all, Yamada Ryo helped him a lot this time and solved a troublesome thing in his heart. There is no problem at all in cooking a meal for her. Certainly. After leaving the restaurant to pay the bill, Nangxiang naturally did not forget to observe Yamada Ryo's face. After he found that the other party still had that expressionless face, he felt a little relieved. The reason why he has been reluctant to get too close to Miss Yamada is actually very simple. He was just worried that his damn charm would accidentally make the girl who had been waiting for him for several weeks in the simulation feel excited again. But as of now, Nangxiang looked at Ryo Yamada. It should still be no big problem. I feel like I can continue to have contact with Ms. Yamada. Sure enough, Miss Yamada in real life is quite aloof. It is simply impossible to trigger the reversal scene in the simulation. Nangxiang Shi let out a sigh of satisfaction, and then looked at the number of uses of his data detector. I used it once on Ryo Yamada, twice on Ichiri Goto, and then once on Nishiki Kishu. Then there are 6 uses left. Sparse it? After all, they are all things exchanged for heartbeat value. Looking at the 610 heartbeat points he had left, the heartbeat points he received from Goto Kazuri after chatting with him online, Nangxiang shook his head. 610 points of heartbeat value. Converted to simulation, it is only 2 simulation opportunities. There are no flowers at all. If there were another terminally ill simulation subject like Nishiki Chisuke, he would not even be able to be saved. Sure enough, use it sparingly. Whether it's props or heartbeat value. Thinking of this, Nangxiang gave up the idea of using the detector on Miss Yamada. At the same time, he looked sideways at Yamada Ryo, smiled and started chatting actively. Sure enough, she is indeed an interesting person. Yamada Ryo listened to Nango's humorous words. Although she didn't answer much of the conversation most of the time, when she looked at Nangxiang, she couldn't help but blink her eyes and think so. and recalling the sudden action of Nangxiang grabbing his palm just now. It seems that other unknown emotions have sprouted in my heart that has been silent all this time. Maybe this is the somewhat unpredictable girlish mind. Yamada Ryo tilted his head. She doesn't understand. In her short career of more than 10 years, this was the first time she felt this way in her heart. Sometimes, it might just be like this. You care about someone just because the other person accidentally touched your hand. Or on a sunny afternoon, the other person is wearing a clean white shirt. Yamada Ryo stared at Nangxiangxi's back in front of him expressionlessly, thinking. Correct. When visiting Nangxiang at night, neon lights illuminate the clean eyes with a unique bright color. While people are fascinated by it, they are always worried about whether the bright color will go out. He asked quietly but calmly, I wonder what Ryo would like to eat? Yamada Ryo thought of a long list of dishes he wanted to eat. But when it comes to your mouth, it turns into, what do you usually eat? When saying this sentence, she had some regrets. This was obviously a good opportunity to legitimately blackmail Nangxiang and ask for what he wanted to eat, but he didn't seize it. You can make whatever you want, fry meatloaf or something, and I'm going to add an egg tonight. Then take that one. Although she felt a little regretful, she had already said that and there was no need to change it. But from behind, she took a few steps forward and added, I want to add 2 eggs. Good. After receiving Nangxiangxi's consent, Yamada Ryo was relieved and sincerely looking forward to the next delicious meal. Only Ms. Yamada, who only focused on the food, didn't notice her figure when following Nangxiang. Seem a little closer. It was already around 7:30 in the evening after feeding Yamada Ryo's belly and putting her on the train. Nangxiang returned home comfortably. It's finally solved. Feeling that the burden on his body was instantly relieved, Nangxiangxi stretched out. The matter of Nishiki Chisuk and Inu Takina, as well as the Riko Riko orphanage distributing aid funds, can be considered satisfactorily resolved at this point. Then what to do next? It's just learning after all. After taking a simple shower, Nangxiangxi sat cross-legged in front of his small round table and opened the book. Although the simulation is important, solving the problem of the Riko Riko orphanage is also important. But despite all the hardships, Nangxiangxi still loved learning sincerely. At least face learning. It is much easier than facing the complicated and difficult to understand girl's heart. He opened the book and was about to swim in the ocean of knowledge. But the next second, the phone's ringtone suddenly rang rapidly. Nangxiang stopped flipping through the book. Then he reached out and answered the phone without hesitation. Hello, this is Nangxiang. Who is this? He asked. Without any pause, a voice quickly came from the other end of the phone. I am Ryoko Okino. Principal Okino. Now Nangxiangxi stood up in surprise. Mainly because he didn't understand why the principal of Oka High School, that is, Ryoko Okino, called him late at night. Chapter 11. When I was in Nangxiang, I didn't love money at all, 4,100 words. Ryoko Okino, principal of Oka High School. This lady can definitely be considered an acquaintance from Nangxiang. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My love simulation with them. Author, Chiudeo Udaziiwe. Chapter 114. After all, the other party has taken good care of him since he entered school. Not only did he considerately exempt Nangxiangxi from the high fees at Oka High School, but he also made a special trip to review and approve his scholarship application. Of course, this is indeed the reason why Nangxiang ranked first in the entire grade and ranked first in the country in the last national mock test. But kindness is kindness. Nang Xiangxi never hesitates to respect those who are willing to help him. So after hearing her voice on the phone, Nang Xiang also managed to cheer up a little and put down the book he was about to open. Principal Gangno, what can I do? Well, first of all, congratulations on winning the title of number 1 in your grade again, Nang Xiang. On the other end of the phone, Ryoko Okino didn't show off because of his status as the principal of Oka High School. Instead, he smiled and took the initiative to congratulate Nango Toki. After all, she actually knew it very well. With Nango's monster-like academic ability, even if he found a random school in Tokyo, the school leaders would be willing to waive his tuition and let him enroll as a special admissions student. Her voice paused, and then she said again, I won't say too many polite words. I'm calling you Nang Xiang this time. Actually, I have something to ask you for help. Can I help you with something? This time, Nang Xiang felt a little strange. As the principal of Oka High School, Ryoko Okino is considered an elite member of Japanese society in the true sense. Whether it is personal connections or financial connections behind them, they cannot be underestimated. What's the use of asking him to go to Nang Xiang for things that she can't do? Don't worry, since I'm the one calling, there is definitely something you can do. As if he had guessed what Nang Xiang was thinking, Ryoko Okino said with a smile, and then said, you should know that our Oka High School will publish an issue of the school magazine Oka every time we attend a cultural festival, right? Of course it's clear, Nang Xiangxi responded. The so-called Royalty School magazine is actually a publication organized into volumes under the leadership of the Classical Literature Department of the Student Club. Although the school magazine Royalty is said to be a student publication, the tone of its works is basically literary works, that is, novels, essays, and poems, which is a so-called literary publication. According to legend, since the Taisho period, the tradition of publishing an issue of the Oka School magazine every year at the Oka Cultural Festival has been passed down to this day. Many articles in the Oka School magazine of our early Oka High School actually won various young student awards, but in recent years, Gangno Ryoko couldn't help but shake his head. It can be said that the content of the school magazine is getting worse and worse, it is simply unsightly. The school magazine Oka is a symbol with a long history. In a sense, it also represents the face of Oka High School. However, due to the rise of smartphones and the popularization of student entertainment in recent years, publishing literary works has gradually declined. This has resulted in fewer and fewer excellent articles in the school magazine Royalty year by year. Even last year, the Department of Classical Literature published the school magazine Royalty for the first time. For Oka High School, which prides itself on cultivating students in all aspects, this is something that is absolutely intolerable. There are still 2 weeks until the Osha festival. Nang Xiang, your academic ability is good, so I want you to write an article to enrich the content of the Osha school magazine. Is that just this? What do you mean it's just? You better pay attention to me. On the other end of the phone, Ryoko Okino laughed and cursed, then added. This time, it's not just me, but also several senior officials on the school board of directors, who attach great importance to the publication of the school magazine Royalty. Really, Nang Xiangxi responded casually. Writing articles sounds like a lot of trouble. And the most important thing is, Nang Xiangxi couldn't help but glance at his current simulator status bar. Name, Nang Xiangxi. Appearance, 9, Sports, 7, Academic Ability, 8, Specialties, Learning LV4, Writing, Romance, LV4, Cooking, Happiness, LV4, Narcissism LV3, Lies LV3, Music LV2, Action LV1, Agility LV1, Self-Discipline LV1, Sincerity LV1. Simulator Evaluation. As a handsome young man who has gradually emerged, a promising future is no longer enough to describe you. You are a rare and popular commodity among women of all ages, including some men with extraordinary sexual interests. It's been a long time since Nang Xiangxi opened his simulator panel and took a look. This time, when I opened it, I discovered that the simulator's evaluation of him had changed again. From a promising future to a handsome young man who has already shown his prominence. It seems that the more specialties you have, the simulator's evaluation of you will gradually change. But the key this time is none of that. The key is. Nang Xiangxi turned his attention to writing, romance, LV4 in the simulator. Yes. There is no reason why Ryoko Gangano's request has not been agreed to yet. A lot depends on this writing, romance, LV4. He had personally experienced this evil skill himself. Feeling romantic, needless to say this kind of thing for now. The key is that Nang Xiangxi felt like he was equipped with a love confession motor at that time, and he just wanted to find someone to express his love quickly. Even myself, who has always had strong self-control, looks like that. What if what I write is seen by a student of the same age, who is budding in adolescence and loves love like a blank piece of paper? Then the consequences. Well, to be honest, Nang Xiang didn't even want to think about it. The head is big. Sure enough, considering the students of Oka High School, I still have to refuse here. Thinking of this, Nang Xiangxi secretly made up his mind and spoke immediately. Principal Okino, although I am very grateful for your help, I am actually not very good at writing articles. Nang Xiang, if you are willing to help us this time, the tuition and fees exemption mentioned before, the progress can actually be faster. On the other end of the phone, Ryoko Gango's voice was smiling like a female fox. This, that, is not a problem in this regard, Principal Gangno, you know I am not the kind of person who values money. Nang Xiangxi shook his head. As a man, would it be a bit, to change something that has already been decided? If you can win an award like the Youth Literature Award this time, the process of the scholarship you have been approving can actually go faster. Ryoko Gangano, who was well aware of the difficult family conditions in Nangxiang, seemed to be at ease and spoke again with a smile. Principal Gangno, I'm not that kind of person. For the sake of students from the same school, we shouldn't. The school magazine Royalty also has manuscript fees for you. Well. Nang Xiangxi on the other end of the phone finally sighed heavily. It happens that a camel is crushed to death by a straw. Now that it has come to this, he can only accept. Since Principal Okino has asked this, then as a member of Oka High School, it is natural for me to contribute my own strength to Oka High School, but please Principal Okino remember, please don't use money to insult me in the future. A noble soul. Then Nang Xiang coughed again and added in a casual tone, I wonder when the scholarship that Principal Gangno said will be received. How about next week? Okino Ryoko replied with a smile. Will it arrive next week? It's a bit fast. You must know that Oka High School scholarships are basically transferred to bank cards through bank transfer procedures at the end of the semester. This kind of behavior, which is equivalent to advance payment, has never been done before. Nang Xiangxi was completely energetic at this time. As for the previous thought of taking into account the students of Oka High School, it can be said that it has completely disappeared at this time. What nonsense! Is it important that Oka High School students have his scholarship? That was bright money, and it was given to me for free by the school. Don't want it for nothing. Certainly. Of course I didn't change my tune because of money. Nang Xiangxi was trying to convince himself, if you think about it carefully, you really still need to have a vigorous and unforgettable love when you are a student, right? The student days are incomplete without even having a relationship. Besides, there is no such thing as puppy love in Japan. Done. Thinking of this, Nang Xiangxi coughed, then I don't know what Principal Gangno wants me to write. Let me tell you in advance that I will definitely not be able to support the entire content of the Oika School magazine by myself. In previous years, the Royalty School magazine had about 50 to 70 pages of content, a 4-paper size. No matter how powerful he is, there is no way he can write 50 or 60 pages of novels, poems, and essays by himself. That's pure nonsense. Of course it's impossible for you to write alone. Okino Ryoko has obviously already prepared countermeasures. Starting tomorrow, we will collect manuscripts from all students in the school. Anyone who is interested can submit a manuscript. And don't worry, Akane Shinjo, the second grader, there is also contact. I won't let you fight alone. I see. Nanzayongshi nodded. At this time in previous years, the student club in the Department of Classical Literature was responsible for handling this matter. But this year, the school actually directly intervened. That's all I want to discuss with you. Nangxiang, do you have anything else? Over there, Ryoko Gangano asked directly. Have. Huh? What else? Gangno Ryoko was a little strange. Everything that needs to be said should have been said. Why is it that Nangxiangshi still has something to ask? She cheered up slightly. Although she didn't say anything about the fact that the other person was number 1 in her grade, she still valued him very much in her heart. That's right, ahem, Principal Gangno, can your scholarship be paid faster? When Nanxiang was on the other end of the phone, he made a request without any shame. Ryoko Gangno. She was silent for a long time, and then she laughed and cursed. I know your family's situation is not very good, but it will be 3 days at the earliest. If nothing happens, I'll hang up first. Wait a minute, Principal Gangno, there is also the matter of exempting tuition and fees. Beep. This time, Ryoko Gangno hung up the phone call without hesitation. My love simulation with them. Author, Chiudeo Udazi Iway. Chapter 115. This boy. Staring at the name Nangxiangshi on the phone screen, Okino Ryoko couldn't help but smile. But after laughing, Okino Ryoko couldn't help but sigh a little. That kid's family financial situation is really as bad as ever. She thought of the scene when she first saw Nanxiang. That time, Nangxiang, who had just entered Oka High School, took the initiative to find her. If my grades can reach the top of my grade every time, I hope Principal Gangno will waive my tuition and miscellaneous fees. The handsome and clean young man walked into her principal's office and spoke like this. At that time, Okino Ryoko was still wondering where the other party got such confidence. But I didn't expect him to actually do it. Gangno Ryoko sighed slightly. If there are geniuses and hard-working people in the world, then maybe Nangxiangshi is a student who has both of these qualities. She sighed and couldn't help but take a look at Nangxiangshi's information. It is really not easy for a student of this background to be able to establish himself alone in the metropolis of Tokyo. Compared to Gangno Ryoko's sai, Nangxiangshi on the other side seemed very indifferent. However, today he did not continue his daily study at his usual pace. Instead, he hesitated for a while, took out his phone again, and dialed his home number. Hello. Ah, is it Shiho-sama? Yes, it's me, Ashi. Nanxiangshi stretched out his body, listened to the voice on the other end of the phone, and responded with a gentle smile, it's nothing, I'm living a good life in Tokyo. Cold? Hey, there's nothing to be cold about. Don't worry, I will take care of myself. Is second sister Yubeo here with you? Okay, just rest assured. I'm not smoking and I'm not a bad person. The temperature has started to heat up in autumn these days. It should be similar in Akita. You should also pay attention to measures to avoid the heat. If you don't need to pay, how can you use it? It's enough. Don't worry. Nang Xiangxi took a sip of water and patiently listened to the words of the two sisters on the other end of the phone before continuing to respond. It is different from many novel protagonists who travel into animation and have no worries about food and clothing in the second dimension. In fact, the family conditions in Nangxiang have never been ideal. In order to support the original owner's education, the two sisters dropped out of junior high school early and worked outside to make money. He voluntarily gave up his studies and dropped out to work. It may sound easy, but combined with the general Japanese concept of favoring sons over daughters, no one can imagine how much effort the two sisters spent to provide money for their younger brother to study. This is especially true for my parents in Nangxiang. During the day, he works in the fields, and at night, he goes to work in nearby convenience stores and factories. These are all things Nangxiang knew clearly. This is also why Ryoko Okino talked about exemption from tuition and miscellaneous fees and scholarships. The important reason why Nangxiang, who has always been unhesitating, hesitated for the first time. It's not just greed for money, there may be a little bit of it. But more importantly, in 3 days, my first scholarship should be credited to our family's bank card, Nan Xiangxi said to the other end of the phone. Me? I've been having a good time recently, everything is fine. Nan Xiangxi opened the window, took a look at the bustling night view of Tokyo outside the window, and then took a look at the extremely simple furnishings in his rental house, and continued to reply. Should I keep the scholarship? Why should I keep so much money? Oh, I told you that prices in Tokyo are not much different from those in Akita. Eldest sister and second sister, please stop worrying about me. Choose clothes for me? No, I haven't worn the clothes you bought last time. It's too childish. My school uniform is enough. What? You want to come over and see me? The fare is a bit expensive, right? After another round of pleasantries, Nan Xiangxi hung up the phone again, stretched out, and regained his energy. Good. The family feud is now over. So the next thing to do is indeed. Nang Xiangxi moved the book in front of him and spread out the graph paper while thinking. Let's first think about how to write the article for the school magazine Royalty. Yes. Now that you have decided to do it? Of course, you have to do it completely. Nang Xiangxi was also very curious about what kind of articles he could write with his LV4 writing expertise. Chapter 112. Indulge yourself in eternal romantic literature. 4,500 words. How to maximize the role of specialty writing, romantic, LV4 and pure and simple romantic writing skills in Nangxiang in his later years. During the past few days in Nangxiang, I experimented with each other. Then he came to a conclusion. The more sad, beautiful, and romantic what you write, the more it can reflect the role of writing, romantic. On the contrary, the more nonsensical, strange, and outrageous the article you write, the less likely it is that the skill will be able to play its role. For example, the world is so big, I want to go out and see it, and I really want to see what color underwear you are wearing today. The difference between the two can be clearly seen. The content of the latter naturally cannot have the slightest bit of romantic flavor in it. Naturally, it is impossible to maximize the effect of writing, romantic, and pure and simple romantic writing skills in Nangxiang in his later years. But the most outrageous and evil thing is, even if Nangxiang Shijhen wrote, I really want to see the color of the underwear you are wearing today, which has no romantic flavor and is strictly considered harassment, it can still make him feel a little bit romantic. The breath is in it. It's an amazing feeling. There is a romantic feeling of I knew I would be beaten for saying such things, but I just asked and looked at death as if I were going home. Certainly. If you are writing mathematical formulas or chemical and physics data, those are purely cold data. After all, no one can look at a calculation problem like 1 + 1 = 2 and suddenly shed tears. Nangxiang shook his head when he thought of this, threw away the miscellaneous thoughts in his head, and looked at the manuscript paper in front of him again. Possessing LV4 is almost the pinnacle of writing skills. No matter how he writes, he can be said to have an absolute crushing advantage over all students at Oka High School. But since I have agreed to Gang Yangzi, Nang Xiangxi naturally had no intention of fooling the other party casually. Let me think about it. Looking at the blank manuscript paper, Nango began to recall the memories of the previous week's simulation with Nishiki Chisuk and Inu Takina. I remember it clearly when I was in Nangxiang. According to the system's evaluation, his writing level in the simulation as a young man after winning the Naoki Prize, Japan's first literary award, should be around LV4. Until later in his later years, due to the deaths of Nishiki Kishu and Inu Takina. In the simulation, his writing skills reached the LV5 level in the true sense only after a long period of accumulation and condensation and understanding the value of life and death. Logically speaking, since we have to choose the best, it is of course safer to choose works at the LV5 level. But, as expected, it won't work. Nang Xiangxi shook his head and sighed. The things written by LV5 himself are really too sophisticated, revealing the indifference and extreme beauty of an old monk who looks down on the world. Life and death. The continuation of life and love. At that stage, most of the plot developments in his works were discussing these extremely philosophical topics. That kind of wording and sentence making that is extremely skillful, and the words that touch people's hearts as easily as they can be picked at their fingertips are simply not something that a student who has just graduated from high school can write. Obviously, it is completely impossible to apply it to a youthful and energetic literary magazine such as Royalty. So think about it from another angle. Since my works in my later years are not good, what about my youth? Nang Xiangxi muttered to himself. When I was young, I had just won Japan's first youth award, the Akutagawa Prize. It can be said that I was very high-spirited. Later, with his pure and plain writing, he won the Naoki Prize, Japan's first literary award, and officially became the first contemporary young writer. What about your own works at that time? Nang Xiang thought a little. Then the conclusion was drawn. Feasible. Yes. Totally doable. I simulate myself as a young and middle-aged person, with a writing level of about LV4. This is similar to where he is now. Moreover, the works written by Nang Xiang at that time did not discuss issues such as life, death, and love. Most of them are lonely literary works about falling in love but not having it and falling in love but not being able to be together. This kind of literary work is very suitable for students, young people, and others to read. In fact, in the simulation, Nang Xiang's works in his youth are more popular among young people than Nang Xiang's works in his later years. After all, young people in this period just like to read these lonely literary works. Very good. Now that we have decided that it is a work about youth, then the next question is which one to choose. In reality, Nang Xiangxi knocked on the table and muttered to himself. The young self in the simulation actually has a lot of works. My love simulation with them. Author, Chiudeo Udazi Iway. Chapter 116. Because she has to take care of Chisuk Nishiki and Takina Inu after their marriage. During that period, he accumulated a large number of novels, short stories, and various prose manuscripts. Although those manuscripts are works that have not been published by publishers. But judging from his industry-leading level of LV4 when he was a young man in the simulation, a random pick from these casually practiced manuscripts would be enough to hang up and beat up the so-called literary geniuses of the time. Well, just this one. After searching in his mind for a long time, Nang Xiangxi finally landed on a manuscript in his memory that he was very satisfied with. The short story She Hidden in the Sea of Rhododendrons. The story tells that the hero met the heroine Komako one day in the beautiful Sea of Azaleas in the countryside. After spending a fulfilling and joyful vacation with each other, the hero returns to the big city. Feeling the busyness and loneliness in the city, he was like an isolated island, thinking about that woman as passionate and beautiful as Azaleas all the time. But the male protagonist, who is indifferent by nature, does not understand what the feelings hidden in his heart are. Until one day he met an old man, and when he said, "This is love, you are clearly deeply in love with that girl," he finally understood what he meant. So he boarded the train like crazy and headed to the sea of rhododendrons where they met. But it was already too late. The sea of rhododendrons is still in full bloom, but Zhu Ziyi's figure has long since disappeared. In the sunset, he seemed to be hallucinating. Just like the original description. When he stood firm and looked up, the sunset seemed to pour down on his confused heart with a crash. Lost. Gone. And will never disappear again. Why are you here? Look, you're here. The whole text reveals a sense of beauty and romance. Simple but sincere plot. It's enough to make people moved and memorable. Nang Xiang closed his eyes and thought about the details quietly. Then, he nodded, very good. Yes. Very nice. She hidden in the sea of rhododendrons has about 15,000 to 17,000 words. This word count is just right. It doesn't take up a small library like a novella. It's not like a long novel, which often has hundreds of thousands of words. If converted to a 4-size paper, her hidden in the sea of rhododendrons would take up approximately 4 to 5 pages. This is very consistent with the layout requirements of the Royalty School magazine. After all, it is impossible for everyone's works to occupy more than 10 pages of royalty. Let's start. Once you've thought about the theme and the plot, all you need to do next is put pen to paper. Nang Xiangxi picked up the pencil next to him and started writing word for word. After waiting for almost an hour. Your specialty writing, romantic, skill has been slightly improved, and your current level is LV4. Huh, that's almost it for today. Looking at the 3,000 to 4,000 word novel that was basically completed, Nang Xiangxi let out a sigh of relief. In 1 hour, Nang Xiangxi was not a printer, so writing 3,000 to 4,000 words by hand was already the limit. And during this period, we have to check for typos and other miscellaneous things. Of course you have to spend some time in Nangxiang. I'll write the rest tomorrow. I looked at the time and found that it was already around 11 o'clock. Nang Xiangxi put down the pen without hesitation. According to the current speed, if I make time tomorrow, I should be able to finish this novel. As for now, sleep. There's no need to be in such a hurry. 2 weeks of preparation time is enough for Nang Xiang. Thinking of this, Nang Xiang fell into a deep sleep while lying on the bed. The next day, amid the somewhat surprised looks of all the students in the same class, Nang Xiangxi came to school with some writing paper for some unknown reason. I don't know what the big devil of Nang Xiang wants to do. It's not just after class that I write. Even for some unimportant courses, he always carried the grid paper with him and immersed himself in writing. What happened? Has the great demon king of Nangxiang changed his gender? Are you taking the route of a literary boy? No one quite understands. But they also didn't dare to come forward and ask. I could only watch as Nangxiang came with a blank manuscript paper and left with a manuscript paper filled with words when school was over in the afternoon. Finally it's almost done. Looking at the thick stack of manuscript paper in his arms, enough for more than 10 sheets, Nang Xiangxi let out a breath. Not having a computer is trouble. Handwriting is not only slow but also a waste of money and time. But after all, he has been busy all day, and his achievements cannot be ignored. Her Hidden in the Sea of Azaleas has basically been completed, except for the last scene, the scene where the hero hallucinates because he did not see Miss Komako. It is about 1,000 to 2,000 words, which is only 1.5 pages of manuscript paper. This won't take long at all. According to the usual habit of giving extra meals to the staff of the Stars exhibition hall every day. Nang Xiangxi walked into the Stars exhibition hall, minding his own business, and then took a look around. I don't know what Yudis Hixinga and the others did. The entire Stars performance hall was empty, with no one in sight. Forget it. Let's go buy some ingredients. Simply reaching out to open the refrigerator, and taking a quick look, Nang Xiangxi came to the conclusion that he needed to buy ingredients. The food consumption has been too high recently. It can be said that the appetites of Ajishi Hoshika, Mispa, Ichiki Hikaru, Kita Ikuyo, Godu Kazuri, and Yamada Ryo have increased their appetites. Ingredients that could last 3 days can now only last 1 day. These women are really not afraid of getting fat. Nang Xiang sighed a little. But he casually placed the manuscript paper of her hidden in the sea of rhododendrons beside the bar, and walked out of the Stars performance hall without hesitation. As for reimbursement of food costs, then wait until Yudis Hixinga comes back before reimbursing the money. Nang Xiangxi thought this way and walked towards the supermarket in Shimokitazawa. And it happened to be a few minutes after he left. The originally quiet Stars performance hall ushered in the noisy foursome, Itaki Hoshika, Hiroi Kairi, Mispa, and Godu Kazuri. Hey? You want to perform at the cultural festival? Little loneliness. Have you already decided? The purple red-haired woman with such a big tongue and slurred speech is named Hiroi Kairi. Not only is she a junior of Itaki Hoshika's from college, but like Yamada Ryo, she is also a bassist active in a well-known band in Shinjuku. Being able to get to know each other was a complete surprise for Godu Kazuri. At this time, she was smelling of alcohol. She was holding Goto Ichisato's shoulders, pouring wine, and asking. I didn't expect that little lonely could actually muster up the courage. How wonderful. Youth. Come. Ichiki-senpai. Come and have a drink with me to celebrate. Yo. Who wants to drink with you? An alcoholic. He looked at Hiroi Kairi who was rushing towards him. Itaki Hoshige kicked her away with a look of disgust on her face, and then turned her head to look at Godu Kazuri, feeling a little surprised. However, Little Loneliness is actually willing to take the initiative to perform at the cultural festival. This is really rare. Is there any special reason? Yes. If the person who took the initiative to end the band's cultural festival performance was Kita Ikuyo, then Ichi Hoshige will not have any doubts. But that person turned out to be Goto Kazuri. This can't help but make people sigh. You must know that when he first came to Stars, Goto Kazuri couldn't even stand at the front desk and serve drinks to guests. I just wanted to give it a try. Goto Ichiri lowered her head and spoke in a low voice. She was really embarrassed to tell Ajishi Siege that she only made this proposal to please a certain man. Really? Pretty good. Using the choke technique to grab the neck of Hiroi Kairi, who had been muttering, "Drink a drink with me," Ajishi Hoshige glanced at Goto Kazuri. In fact, even if Goto Ichiri didn't say anything, she could probably guess the reason why Goto Ichiri was able to change like this in a short period of time. The high probability is Nang Xiang time. Miss Pa's surprised voice came from behind the bar. Instantly attracted the attention of Hoshige Itaki and Kairi Hiroi next to her. Huh? What's wrong with Nang Xiang? Pa. Subconsciously releasing the hand that locked Hiroi Kairi's neck, Ichiki Hoshige asked. Ah, no, he just left this by the bar. Arranging the manuscript paper with both hands, Miss Pa tilted her head and recited the title above. Her Hidden in the Sea of Azaleas, Nang Xiang Time. Is it a novel? Ah, that. Our school just announced the call for essays for the school magazine Oka today. Ah Toki, Senior Nang Xiang, you should be preparing for that. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My love simulation with them. Author, Chiudeo Udazi Iway. Chapter 117. Compared to outsiders like MS Pa, Goto Kazuri immediately thought of the announcement posted at Oka High School that he saw this morning. She held out her hand and answered with a red face. Oh? That Nangxiang senior, is he a boy? Keenly aware of the blush on Goto Ichiri's face, Hiroikiri, who had a carefree and easygoing nature, suddenly became interested and asked with a smile while squinting her eyes. That. Goto Ichiri opened his mouth. Speaking of which, what did he write? I'm a little curious. It should be okay if I take a look, right? Stop it, you idiot. Seeing Hiroikiri curiously take away Nangoshi's manuscript paper from Miss Pa's hand and open it, Ichi Hoshige walked over without hesitation to stop it. However, this time Yi Jizange didn't have time to take action yet. He was completely stunned. Because she clearly saw it. Hiroikiri, who took the manuscript and looked at it casually, first changed from casual to serious, and then to tears in eyes. No. Looking at Hiroikiri, whose nose was twitching and running out of mucus. Ichiki Hunka, Miss Pa, and Goto Kazuri couldn't help but open their mouths, not knowing how to speak. An article written by a high school student. Do you, an adult of 26 or 17 years old, show such an expression? Chapter 113. Ichiri Goto's turn. 8,000 words. Looking at the manuscript of the novel Her hidden in the sea of rhododendrons in front of me. Hiroikiri, who looked careless just now and had a carefree expression, gradually became silent from laughing and joking at the beginning. At the beginning, there is an extremely calm self-narration by the male protagonist. The one I loved disappeared. I will be alone forever. This is a simple and even a bit plain text. It was as if someone was murmuring in a calm voice in her ear. But I don't know why. But it was this too calm tone and simple words that could gradually calm down her alcohol-soaked heart. At the beginning of the story, it is told from the perspective and tone of the male protagonist. The male protagonist is a naturally cold person, and has been somewhat insensitive to other people's emotions since birth. This emotional insensitivity. He has never made any friends since he was a child. Although he is in the city, he is alone. Of the thousands of lights in the city, not a single one was reserved for him. It is still a calm, almost plain description, but this Nangxiangshi vividly portrays the mood and image of the hero with extremely delicate expressions. Writings from the Nangxiang period. As if there is some kind of magic power. Hiroikiri even felt that the male protagonist seemed to be active in front of her eyes. Similarly, Hiroikiri, who has been a villain since high school and is determined to change himself, also has an inexplicable feeling of empathy for the male protagonist in the story. She remained silent and continued to turn over the pages. Taking advantage of a vacation after work, the hero traveled alone to a distant place. This is a journey with no end. When he passed a stop at a sea of rhododendrons, he got out of the car and was attracted by the beautiful blooming sea of rhododendrons. And on the plain where azaleas bloomed, he met an eccentric and always enthusiastic girl, Juzu. The male protagonist in the story is attracted by Komako's passion and beauty. Hiroikiri's mood also follows the mood of the hero in the story. The beautiful and passionate pony, just as described in the article, the azaleas made the blush on her face even more gorgeous, and even her fingertips looked extremely cute in my eyes. Meet Juzu. A brief conversation. This country girl yearns for the city. The male protagonist who is attracted to her. The characters of these two people, in the writing of Nango Toki, who has never been masked by Hiroikiri, seem to really exist. It's as if there really is such a sea of rhododendrons in this world, and there are Juzu's existence. Hiroikiri's eyes, which had been squinted, opened unconsciously. The white palm holding the manuscript paper couldn't help but turn it back. The encounter with Juzu made her feel happy. The separation from Juzi made her feel sad. Hiroikiri just felt like she was the protagonist in the story. The protagonist who is naturally stupid and has no interest in other people's emotions. The flat text expression gradually became three-dimensional in her eyes. It was as if what she was in now was not the star's exhibition hall, but the unpopular and empty home of the protagonist in the story. Yes. Hiroikairi raised her head. She returned home. No family greetings. There are no line messages from band friends. No hot meals. There are just empty rooms and a tired self. I want to go back to find Josie again. A strong thought drove Hiroikairi. She wanted to see that beautiful and passionate person, want to meet her, and want to communicate with her. But what is the emotion in this heart? This kind of ups and downs, some impetuous emotions. Hiroikairi didn't understand, so she could only walk on the street blankly, lonely, and lost her mind, watching the people coming and going in front of her. Among the people coming and going, she was the only one who seemed like a ghost. Until she inadvertently told an old man her feelings. It was the old man's words that made her suddenly realize. This is love. You are clearly deeply in love with that girl. Yes. Having become numb to emotions, she finally understood what the warmth that had been surging in her heart felt like. This is love. Irreplaceable, but the most precious thing. She wants to find this thing again. For this reason, she got back on the train to the Sea of Azaleas in full bloom. But it's already too late. A brief encounter means nothing. The sea of rhododendrons is still there and still blooming. But the girl she cared about most had disappeared. Only she remained in the empty wilderness, looking at the endless sunset and sea of flowers. She is the only one. Lost. Gone. Then it disappeared again. When he saw this, an endless feeling of sadness surged from Hiroikairi's chest. The slender and plain words had completely infected her. When she was about to continue reading. But I found that the whole novel ended abruptly here. Not only does such a heartbreaking plot appear in a novel, it's actually out of context. There is no ending. This was probably the last straw that broke the camel's back. The fragmented chapters of the unscrupulous author make the endless grievances collide with the beautiful and sad feeling in the heart. Hiroikairi finally couldn't help it, her eyes lost their luster, and she cried loudly. Jose! My Jose! A woman of 26 or 17 years old, who could be considered a mature adult, burst into tears. The missing colt. The protagonist feels lonely deep in his heart. It all made her feel the same after reading all the novels. No. More than just making her feel the same way. It even made her feel a strong sense of crisis that she was afraid that she would be content with the status quo. If you keep dawdling like this, then he spends his days drinking wine every day. Will she be like the hero in the future and lose the person she loves the most? No. Question before that. Can I find someone to date? She really wants to be like in the story? Like the male protagonist, meet someone, get to know someone, and then confess your love to the other person. My love simulation with them. Author, Chiudeo Udaziiwe. Chapter 118. Instead of regretting it all day long. Yes. I can't go on like this any longer. I can't continue to be a coward like this. I'm not a coward. I need to find someone. Confess your feelings to each other. Thinking of this, Hiroikairi put down the manuscript again and looked around with tears in her eyes. It happened to be at this time that Yijizinga couldn't help but leaned over, opened his mouth carefully, and said tentatively. Hello. Hiroi. While shouting, Hoshijitaka continued to observe Hiroikairi in front of him. What's wrong with this guy? Aren't you just drunk and crazy? Have you finally drunk your brain to pieces? Why are you calling someone's name all of a sudden? She is very concerned about Hiroikairi's mental state. What Yi Zinga didn't expect was that it seemed that it was her opening her mouth that attracted the other person's attention. Hiroi Kairi, who had already put the manuscript back on the bar, burst into tears and had runny nose, suddenly hugged her. At the same time, a sound was made. Ichiki-senpai. Please. Date me. I can support you by playing bass. What? Idiot. Let go. It's so dirty. Itakazinga was stunned by the other party's sudden attack, but when he felt that the other party's warm tears and sticky nose seemed to be on him. She was born to love cleanliness, and she couldn't stand it any longer. Stay away from me. Hiroi. Why? Why do you reject me? I obviously like Ichiki-senpai so much. No. It's like living alone. Her face was covered with tears and snot smeared on her face. Hiroyuki Kuri was obviously a rare beauty, but in this dirty state, anyone who saw her would be disgusted. Naturally, this also includes the struggling Ichi Hoshige. Put your hands down. It's so dirty. Itakazinga struggled and made a sound. This idiot. What a strength. She couldn't help shouting. And I'm a woman. You idiot. Yes. She is a woman. The idiot in front of me didn't know why he was so crazy. He actually hugged her and said he wanted to date her. It doesn't matter. Ichiki-senpai. I don't care. Hiroi Kairi blew her nose with a hum sound, but refused to let go. I care. Ichi Hoshige's pretty and mature face turned red, and she was really going to vomit blood from the Hiroi Kairi in front of her. When she was a student, she was actually pursued by many boys due to her outstanding appearance. But at that time, she had to take care of Ajishi Hungzia. So I rejected all these confessions. But that doesn't mean she likes Lily. It's just that because I have to take care of Ajishi Hungzia, I don't have the time or energy to find a good boyfriend. Senpai is really shy, but it doesn't matter. We can actually cultivate a relationship with each other from now on. What do you mean, start training now? I'm not interested in you. Yi Jizinj cursed, then turned his head and simply called for help. Pa! Come here. Help. Pull this idiot away. Yes. Since you can't pull him away yourself and can't persuade him, you might as well just ask someone for help. It's also faster. She turned back and looked at the palady behind the bar. Then she saw that the expression of Miss Pa, who had been flipping through Nang Xiangxi's manuscript with curiosity just now, gradually began to look strange. Calm and elegant at the beginning, he gradually became silent as he flipped through the manuscript. Why does Yuji Zinga feel that this unfolding is a bit strangely familiar? Hey! Pa! She finally broke away from Hiroi Kairi, who was hugging her, shouting, "Date with me," and came to the side of Ms. Pa. Looking at Miss Pa, who was also shedding tears and whose face was so moved that she couldn't control herself, as if her whole person had been sublimated, she couldn't help but glance at the novel manuscript lying next to her. She hidden in the sea of rhododendrons. This line of title is written above in a very regular font. As for it, Ichi Hoshige glanced at Hiroi Kairi, who was lying on the table crying because of broken love, and then looked at the palady in front of her, who was filled with sadness and aesthetic temperament, as if she had been purified in some way, and her mind was full of thoughts. Confused. Isn't it just a novel written by a high school student? It's not something written by a literary master, a great writer, or a writer. As for such an exaggerated reaction? She really doesn't understand now. Then she shook her head and looked sideways at Goto Kazuri, who looked over at him curiously. Little loneliness. Goto Kazuri, who was looking at Nang Xiang's manuscript curiously, tilted his head. Anyway, two people have already seen it. Why don't we both see it together? Showing the manuscript from Nang Xiang in his hands, Yi Jizinj put forward his own opinions straightforwardly. Hey? Do you want to read the manuscript written by Senior Nangxiang? To be honest, Goto Kazuri was really curious about what kind of things Nangashi had written. Yeah. Anyway, two people have already seen it. If you say it was exposed, it has already been exposed. Yi Jixing briefly flipped through it. There are about 10 pages of content, and if you just look at it, you should be able to flip through it in one go. This article will be published in your school magazine by then, right? It should be in the school magazine. Regarding Nang Xiangshi's strength, Goto Ichiri is still very relieved. Then let's take a look and give Nang Xiang some advice. Itakazinga touched his chin. After all, for novels, the more readers the better, right? That's right. A timid Goto nodded his head. Naturally, the more readers and opinions the novel has, the better it will be. After all, it is easier to produce good works by brainstorming. And Ichiri Goto was also very curious. What kind of novel did Nang Xiangshi write? He actually made Hiroikiri, who has always been a drunkard, and Miss Pa, who has always been mature and elegant, show such a state. She was very curious, so she stuck her head next to Yuji Zinga. The two of them lowered their heads and began to read each word carefully. And it is exactly this watching. Goto Kazuri and Ichiki Hoshika discovered it. On sight. Like. Gradually it became impossible to move away. I really didn't expect that I would meet Nango-san in the supermarket in Shimokitazawa. Walking on the road, Ichi Hongxia's whole body was filled with tenderness and kindness. She looked at Nang Xiang with a smile and joy. Nan Xiangshi smiled and nodded. When I went to Fangxing just now, I found that there was no one there and there were no ingredients in the refrigerator, so I took some time out to buy something. It must be that my sister accompanied Ms. Pa to a familiar musical instrument store to look at the equipment. Talking about her arrogant sister. The expression on Yuji Hongxia's face softened significantly. She knew it. How his sister has always taken care of him. Since her mother died, her sister has assumed the role of mother in a sense. Although not mature. Even a little clumsy. But for such a sister, Yuji Hongxia has nothing but deep gratitude. Moreover, compared to other peers, my sister also has an indescribable sense of maturity and reliability. But her younger sister has matured a lot now. What should I say, my sister is also 29 years old, so she should find a boyfriend, right? Thinking of this, Yuji Hongxia looked a little worried. And it seemed that he could see Yuji Hongxia's mood. Nang Xiangshi, who was following her, spoke considerately. Don't worry, Ichiki-san. The store manager is very beautiful and has a very good personality. It will definitely not be difficult to find a boyfriend. These words are not comfort. With Hoshige Idishi's appearance, it would not be difficult to find a boyfriend in Tokyo. My love simulation with them. Author, Chiudeo Udazi Iway. Chapter 119. Yeah. Nang Xiangshi took the initiative to enlighten him. Yuji Hongxia's worried expression just now dissipated and he took the initiative to joke with a smile. If my sister can find me a brother-in-law like Nang Xiangsang, then I will rest assured. Not only can he cook, but he is also very good at studies, and his looks are nothing to mention. As for Yi Dezhi Hongxia's words, Nan Xiangshi just smiled and did not answer them. After all, he also knew that this sentence was naturally a little joke from Yuji's Hongxia. There is a big age difference between him and Ichi Hoshige. He is 17 years old, but the other party is already 29 years old. No matter how hard you think, it's impossible to get them together. It would be better to say that if Yuji Zinga was really interested in him. That would be a big problem. He was a minor in Nangxiang. The two of them just talked and laughed all the way. It should be said that Ijishi Hongxia is indeed the core founder of the ending band. Completely different from the timid Goto Kazuri. While the sun is bright and cheerful, he also makes a few jokes from time to time. Even when I was in Nangxiang, I had a great time getting along with her. The two of them talked and laughed all the way to the gate of the stars. Sister should be back by now. After chatting with Nangxiangshi, Yujizi Hongxia, who was in a good mood, took the initiative to open the door to the stars for Nangxiangshi. At the same time, she did not forget to say, "Nangxiang sang, please come in and sit down first. I will pour you a glass tea." "Good." Nangxiangshi nodded, just about to take a step into the stars' performance hall. Then, "Nangxiang." The sound of rapid footsteps suddenly came from among the stars. Yujizi Hongxia looked at him strangely. Then, she saw it standing at the door. Running out of the stars' performance hall, his sister Ichi Hoshige suddenly hugged Nanxiang as he was about to walk in, with tears streaming down his face. At the same time, there was a somewhat excited voice from Ichiki Zinga. "Date with me." Nangxiang. While she squeezed Nanxiangshi's hand, she spoke seriously. "After being single for 29 years, I finally understand. I can't be a coward anymore. I want to confess my love to you. I can't lose you like the hero in your novel, just like he lost his Juzi. Nangxiangshi." Nangxiangshi fell into deep thought. And next to him, Yujizi Hongxia's eyes widened, her bright red eyes looking back and forth between Nangxiangshi and her sister in astonishment. She really didn't expect it? It was obviously just a joke I made just now. Why, Nangxiangshi really became his brother-in-law. And the age gap between you is too big, right? In a short while, Yujizi Hongxia found it difficult to accept. And something happened that was even more difficult for the girl to accept. Accompanied by a bang sound, the starry door in front of them suddenly opened, and at the same time, a black-haired woman with tears on her face rushed out. As soon as she saw Nangxiang, she followed the same example as Yiji Zinga, burying her head in his arms and crying. Just cry. While still holding Nangxiang in her arms, she wanted him to interact with her. This made Ijishi Hongxia, who was standing next to him, completely stunned. "No. Miss Pa. Sister. What are you doing?" Yiji Hongxia, who had just come back to her senses, opened her mouth and tried hard to reach out her hand to pull Yiji Zinga and Miss Pa away from Nangxiangshi's arms. But it didn't work. These two people seemed to have a tight grip and refused to let go. As expected, "Hongxia, you still don't understand." Miss Pa, whose delicate face was full of sorrow, looked at Ichiki Hunka. "What do older women like us lack?" "What?" Yidiji Hongxia's pretty little face was full of bewilderment. "What's missing?" "She just went out to the supermarket and bought some things. After I came back, I found that my sister and the sound engineer in the exhibition hall, Miss Pa, had become like this. It's love." "Hongxia. I finally understand after reading Nanxiang's novel." Ichiki Hoshige murmured to himself, seeming to be still immersed in the romantic novel. Human life is really short, even the time to meet the person you love is so short. Yes. Romance and poetry are all around you. I cannot be like the protagonist in her Hidden in the Sea of Azaleas and miss out on her own Miss Komako. After reading Nangxiangshi's novel, they completely understood it. What they need is a romantic and beautiful love that will last forever. What are you talking about? Yidizi Hongxia's face was dull. She really didn't understand at all. It's a novel and it's love. Can the two really be connected? Just when her mind was filled with random thoughts, Nanxiangshi, who had been deep in thought, suddenly spoke. "Anyway, let's let them calm down first. We can't let the store manager and MS Pa hang on me all the time, right?" Too. Yujizi Hongxia reacted and cooperated with Nangxiang to pull the entangled Pa lady and store manager off his body. "Wait until the two of them got down." Nangxiangshi breathed a sigh of relief. Some of them are pressed, although the weights of Mispa and Ichi Hashid should be around 50 kilograms to 55 kilograms respectively. A person of this weight is not heavy. But the two people pressed forward together, Nan Xiang felt a sense of oppression immediately. The other part of the reason is the normal reaction of boys. After all, these two are already adult women in their 20s. And compared to the slightly young Ryo Yamada and Kazuri Goto, Hoshika Itaka and Miss Pa, who have already matured, have a different kind of charm. Always hanging on him, such a close contact. After all, Nang Xiangxi was also a boy, and he was not a gentleman. His gun pressing skills could only be said to be average, and of course he was a little intolerable. But it's much better now. When I was in Nangxiang, I looked inside the Stars exhibition hall. Only then did I find my opened manuscript of her hidden in the sea of azaleas in the corner of the bar. Misstep. When I was in Nangxiang, I put away the original novel. At that time, it was because he just wanted to go out to buy groceries and felt that it would not take long at all, so he put his student shoulder bag and manuscript paper on the bar. Unexpectedly, as soon as he left, Itazinga and the others came back. And look at their way of saying, I want to fall in love, I really want to have a romantic love to death. They should have successfully become the first victims of this novel. Nangxiang was also a little speechless. If it can be said that the fried chicken nuggets last time were brought to the Stars Performance Hall by Goto Kazuri on his own initiative, it can be regarded as intentional. So this time the novel turmoil was completely unintentional. Who knew that these guys would actually open their own manuscripts and start reading? Nang Xiangxi admitted that he was also responsible. But if you don't peek at the manuscript of your novel, wouldn't there be so much trouble? But this guy has already appeared. Even if you think about not taking a peek, it's basically impossible, right? Nang Xiangxi couldn't help but glance sideways at the purple-haired woman who was sleeping soundly at the table in the Stars exhibition hall because of alcohol. This purple-haired woman is actually an old acquaintance of Nang Xiangxi in the simulation. The other party's name is Hiroikuri, and he can be regarded as one of the loyal fans of the band. And according to the memory in the simulation, the other party should be a famous bassist active in a band in Shinjuku. In the early stages of ending the band, she helped to end the band a lot. As for her attitude, although Goto Kazuri didn't mention it much in the simulation. But in Nango, I can actually feel that Goto Kazuri actually respects Hiroikuri very much. It's just that the other person is a drunkard with a casual and carefree personality. She will take the initiative to read her novels. When Hiroikuri took a look, Ichi Hashij and Ms. Pa who were next to her were naturally interested. Therefore, Nang Xiangxi was really not surprised at all when this result occurred. Nan Xiang stood up after thinking about it, and helped Ijishi Hongxia to pull Ichiki Hashij and Miss Pa, who were still immersed in the world of novels, to sit on the bench aside. These two would have to wait until the effects of the writing, romance, and pure and simple romantic writing techniques in Nangxiang in his later years dissipated. What expressions would they both have? To be honest, Nangxiangxi was really curious. But at the same time, Nangxiangxi did not forget to ask Yuji's Hongxia a question that he was more concerned about. Ichiki-san, was there anyone else who was in the Stars before? Anyone who stayed among the Stars after he left has probably read the novels he wrote. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My love simulation with them. Author, Chiudeo Udazi. Chapter 120. This thing is so evil that anyone who has seen it can be considered a hidden danger. He had to sort out the numbers. But when faced with Nango's question, Ijishi Hunka, who was pouring hot tea for her sister and Miss Pa to calm down, just shook her head. I'm not sure. I called my sisters before, I don't know exactly how many people there are. Really, Nang Xiang could only nod his head when he heard this. Yi Dizi Hongxia is not sure. Ichi Hoshige and Miss Pa are still immersed in the effects of romantic novels. Shumenko Hiroikiri has completely fallen asleep. All clues are broken. Nan Xiangxi had no choice but to give up the idea of continuing to ask questions, and instead walked upstairs and said hello. I think it will take some time for them to wake up, so let's go upstairs and prepare the food. Okay, then I'll trouble Nang Xiang-san. Yujizi Hongxia was busy checking the status of her sister and Miss Pa at this time, and responded without looking back. From the exhibition hall on the ground floor to the kitchen on the first floor. This journey is actually completely familiar to Nang Xiangxi. He opened the kitchen door casually while thinking about the status of his specialty writing, romance, LV4 ability based on everyone's reactions. The kitchen in front of me is still the same as before, everything in it is neat and untouched. But, probably the speciality sensitivity LV1 given to him by Nishiki Kishu came into play at this time. Nan Xiangxi just looked at the kitchen in front of him and keenly sensed something was wrong. This feeling is very unreasonable, more like a sudden awareness of some kind of crisis. Just when Nang Xiang took a step back and turned around to leave quickly. But the next second. Well. A soft touch suddenly came from his lips, making Nang Xiangxi couldn't help but widen his eyes. Because in front of him, Goto Kazuri was standing on tiptoes, hooking his neck with both hands, and kissed him deeply with her tender pink lips. The plump chest is tight. Even through the large pink sportswear, Nang Xiangxi could feel this overly exciting feeling. That overly soft feeling is even more wonderful than in the simulation. But what made Nang Xiangxi feel even more shocked and surprised was that there was no way Goto Kazuri could be a girl who could forcefully kiss him. How could she, who usually couldn't even speak loudly, suddenly? Nang Xiang's eyes widened and he looked at Goto Iri in front of him. He suddenly realized it when he discovered that the girl's pretty, delicate and extremely good-looking face was immersed in an indescribable romantic sentimentality. It turns out that the people who read his novel were not only Ajishi Hoshika, Miss Pa and Hiroikiri but also Goto Kazuri. It's no wonder that Goto Kazuri, who would never be able to make such an action, is so abnormal. Wait a minute. While Nang Xiang was thinking about how to get out of the predicament, he noticed something even more wrong. Because at this time, Goto Ichisato, who was not shy and hooked his arms around his neck, stood on his tiptoes even more. Nang Xiangxi's clean and beautiful black eyes widened. The pink-haired girl in front of me. Actually. Put your tongue in. Nang Xiangxi wanted to open his mouth wide to show his surprise, but the more he did this, the bolder the loving girl became. He wanted to push Goto Ichiri away from him. But the other party's career line was too grand compared to ordinary high school students, leaving him with nowhere to start. Only then did Nang Xiang finally understand why there is a saying that drinking can cause trouble. Chapter 114. The Nang Xiang succubus that can absorb energy. 4,000 words. What does it feel like to be forcefully grabbed around your neck and kissed? Nang Xiangxi's idea was very simple. Soft. Very soft. Really soft. Moreover, the feeling of kissing is not as sweet as described in the novel. Nang Xiangxi estimated that Goto Ichiri had eaten something like a hot dog before he came over, so he took the initiative to kiss her and there was a taste similar to tartar sauce in her mouth. No. To be precise, now is not the time to think about this. Nang Xiangxi reluctantly moved his head away and just opened his mouth. Ili, calm down. But before he finished speaking, his mouth was blocked by the girl's lips again. God knows how powerful the effect of the pure and simple romantic writing skills of Nang Xiang in his later years was. How can a person who is usually so shy and has low self-esteem be able to muster up such courage? The key is, Nango-shi could clearly feel that Goto Ichiri's skills were obviously very unfamiliar. When his tongue stuck out, he just messed around. If Nan Xiangxi hadn't been worried about biting her, he would have almost bit her. The key is that this woman doesn't know how bad she is, and she looks like she's completely immersed in the sea of romance. Nan Xiangxi struggled several times, but was gagged again by her. This made Nan Xiangxi couldn't help but feel a little tempered. Just kiss yourself forcefully. Do you only care about enjoying yourself? You woman. Nan Xiangxi was not a passive person, so he went into hibernation again. Just like that, by the time Goto Ichiri was very satisfied and ready to retreat, he immediately grabbed Goto Ichisato's shoulders. Goto Ichiri made a startled sound, and his eyes hidden under his bangs widened in panic. She was a little confused and looked at Nan Xiang in front of her. Both hands also began to beat his back gently. But Nan Xiangxi was unmoved. Oh. Are you done talking? Want to leave now? Don't you like kissing? Come. Kiss enough? Not calm, right? Let me help you calm down. Nan Xiang was very annoyed when Ichiri Goto was caught off guard and forcibly kissed, but now he let go, stopped her, and kissed her deeply. The force on Nan Xiang's back gradually increased as he beat him. However, it was as if he was entangled by a succubus in Western legends who could absorb the energy of others. Goto Ichiri's struggle gradually became smaller. Slowly, there was no movement. In the end, even all the strength in his body completely dissipated. His arms also clacked and hung weakly at his sides. Is it really too much? Moving his mouth away, Nan Xiang looked at Goto Kazuri, who was completely absent-minded, rolled his eyes and passed out. It's really. Nan Xiangxi shook his head. He really didn't expect it? I have obviously paid attention to it in every possible way. But the peach was actually picked by someone he would never have imagined, Goto Irie. But it's really not his fault. You know, Goto Ichiri usually doesn't even dare to speak loudly. God knows that this timid girl would become so bold after reading her own novel. No. Use the word bold. I'm afraid I can't even describe Goto Irie in Nango. It's simply audacious. He actually hid in the corner of the kitchen where he would definitely come and launched an attack on himself. To be honest, wasn't this what happened in those late-night books, where the bald man would do to some innocent female high school students? Nan Xiang rubbed his temples. As a boy, he would be attacked by girls. This is really. He shook his head. Then he took out some tissues and wiped his mouth, then looked at Goto Kazuri, who was placed on the kitchen bench on the other side, breathing evenly, and passed out. He hesitated for a while. He still wiped Goto Ichiri's mouth clean. Seeing that she still had no intention of waking up, Nan Xiangxi couldn't help but smile and shook his head, reaching out to lovingly push the long hair from her forehead to both sides. The bangs that were too long were pushed aside. The face hidden under this dark cloud appears. For girls, the facial features are too delicate and slender, and the face has a little baby fat. Because he has been practicing guitar for a long time, his face looks a little too fair, even a bit pale, and he looks indescribably weak and endearing. It's no wonder that the original author of Lonely Rock was asked in an interview, why are the members of the ending band willing to accept Goto Izato's gloomy character? When asked this question, the answer would be because she is good-looking. My love simulation with them. Author, Chiudeo Udazi. Chapter 121. Because Ichisato Goto is indeed very beautiful. If it were placed in ancient Japan, she would probably be regarded as a beauty who looked at herself in pity and sighed while looking at the moon. Only. It's not enough, 1 mile. Nan Xiang reached out and gently caressed Goto Izato's face. The road to overcoming social fear is long. You have to work harder. In his sleep, I don't know what Goto Ichiri was thinking. Drool started to flow from the corner of his mouth again. He gently rubbed Nan Xiang's palm with his face and laughed, hee hee, hee hee. Nangxiangshi. Move your palm away from Goto Izato's face. Nangxiang stood up and stored the ingredients he was carrying just now in the refrigerator. Anyway. Let's start cooking. Ah. Suddenly waking up from his sleep, Goto Ichiri straightened his body suddenly. At the same time, a concerned voice came from my ears. Finally woke up, little loneliness. Ah, Hungzia. Looking at Ichiki Hunka, who looked over with concern, Goto Kazuri, who had just woken up from his sleep, subconsciously lowered his head and said, "Hello, this is. There's nothing wrong with your body, right?" Ujizi Hungzia looked over with concern. "No, it's nothing." Goto Ichiri opened his mouth to answer. "That's good." Ujizi Hungzia felt relieved, and then said, "Nangxiang Sang sent you here, saying that he found you in the kitchen. It's true, when I sent you here, I saw you fell into a coma, and you were still in a coma. What do you think is going on?" Senior Nangxiang. Suddenly hearing this name, Goto Kazuri's originally calm expression suddenly became confused. Because she thought about it? What she did before? Do not know why. After reading the novel written by Nan Xiang, she felt an inexplicable emotion. That is, she really wants to have a romantic love affair with someone like in the novel. This is an extremely strong emotion. Especially when I think about the fact that I might lose the one I love like the hero in the novel. The strong sense of uneasiness and fear, coupled with the desire for love, completely attacked me at that moment. It was as strong as the tide, and at the same time it felt like someone was scratching and scratching inside with their little paws. Finally, driven by this emotion, she actually, attacked Nangxiang Sr. Goto Kazuri's calm expression just now became dull, and then, ah, she said for a long time, and then hit her head on the table with a bang bang bang. Little lonely. Yi Dizzy Hungzia's surprised voice. But even this sound could no longer be heard by Ichiri Goto. She had completely sunk into her own world at this time. Forget it. Forget it. Who is the person who is hiding in the kitchen and attacking Nango Senpai? Is it me? No no no. Absolutely not. I am a rare, gloomy, social phobic, and low self-esteem character like a wild hammer snake. Actually going to attack Nangxiang Sr.? And he even stuck his tongue in. I. What on earth did I do? Hold your head with your hands. Goto Ichiri's expression was twitching and confused. Little lonely. Itaki Hungzia exclaimed. Because this was the first time she saw so many emotional changes on a person's face. Are you okay? No, 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 no. You don't look like you're okay at all. Ichiki Hunka looked at Goto Izato's twitching facial expression and opened his mouth. She was just about to say something else. Then I saw Goto Ichiri, who was still banging his head on the table, suddenly stiffened and began to twitch irregularly. At the same time, Ujizi Hungzia also heard the other party's nonsense. Ah, I will die with no regrets. No, no, no. No, it's not like that. Nangxiang Senpai. I didn't mean it. You. The universe is so vast, black holes are so, smoking will affect your health, right? Seeing Goto Ichisato crying and laughing and looking like he was thinking about the universe and life from time to time, Ichiki Hunka finally panicked. What is the situation? What happened? Why do you feel that Xiao Lonely's condition is more serious than that of her sister and Miss Pa? Yi Jizinga and Miss Pa have just woken up. After waking up, just like Goto Kazuri, he felt very regretful at first, and even looked confused as to why he hugged Nango and why he did that. And after regretting, he blushed again. I think this boy from Nangxiang is pretty good. It's not too bad that he was the one who confessed to a boy for the first time. All in all, it's just a lot of messed up thoughts. But when it comes to nonsense like go to Kazuri. To be honest, it was the first time for Yiji to see Hongxia. She panicked. Just about to continue talking. Then, there was a sound of opening the door. The starry gate opens. Yujizi Hongxia subconsciously raised her head, and then showed an expression as if she had seen a savior. Nangxiang-san. Come here quickly. Little Lonely doesn't know what's wrong with her. The black-haired young man who walked into Fangxing from outside the door was Nangxiang, who had just gone out to throw away the garbage. What happened to Ili? Nan Xiangxi opened the door and walked over, asking casually. 1 mile. Yujizi Hongxia tilted her head. Although it's strange why Nango Toki suddenly became so close to go to Kazuri's title. But it's not the time to worry about that now. She hurriedly pulled Nangxiangxi over and pointed at the question, is life meaningful? Maybe there is. Goto Kazuri opened his mouth. Little Lonely has fallen into his own world again, and the symptoms this time seem to be particularly severe. Is it? This is not a really, it can be summed up in one sentence. Compared to Nangxiang's calm attitude, Yujizi Hongxia is much more anxious now. You must know that once Goto Ichiri falls into her own world, it will take too long for her to wake up. And it was her first time to see such serious symptoms. Don't worry, I'll give it a try. Nangxiangxi's voice sounded, with an indescribable reassuring feeling. Try. Yujizi Hongxia couldn't help but glance at Nangxiang. Nangxiang-san, what are you going to do? Nangxiangxi groaned. Then he stretched out his hand very simply and patted Goto Ichiri's side face. Come back to your senses, Ichiri. Ah! When looking at Nangxiang, he reached out and slapped Goto Izato on the side of his face. Yujizi Hongxia's mouth twitched. She wanted to tell Nangxiangxi. She has tried this method many times. But when Goto Ichiri is completely immersed in his own world, he can pat the side of his face and the other party should be completely inaudible to the sounds from the outside world. But,